All right, we've been talking about the budget, about federal spending, and you both have indicated that you want to bring federal spending down. We have, as you both know, an enormous federal deficit. It's running at about $1.9 trillion a year. The federal debt is around $35 trillion a year. Both of these have numbers that just keep going up. The arrows are just pointing up. The problems are going to get worse. And economists say that this is unsustainable. It's a really tough problem, and it's going to require real political courage from Congress and the president to address it in an effective way. Austin Theriault, what would you do to address these soaring budget deficits?
Well, first of all, just to reiterate the problem, like in any home's budget, you can't spend more money than you take in. And right now, the federal government's been doing that for many years. And both Republicans and Democrats have said they were going to solve the problem. I remember, watching debates back in 2012, and they said we're going to solve this issue. Now we're actually spending more money on the interest in the national debt than we are on defense spending.
So what's the solution?
So one of the solutions is going to be zero-based budgeting. Every budget cycle, I believe these federal agencies need to come to the American people and certainly come to Congress with a zero budget. Start with zero, and then prove to us that this money needs to be delegated for this area, whether it's if it's one item versus another item, because we know over every budget cycle, and we've seen this with the state government here recently, because they're going to be experiencing an over $1 billion budget shortfall in the coming budget cycle. We've seen that when you start from the same amount of spending, there's no incentive. So it's creating the incentive with zero-based budgeting for the bureaucrats to start cutting spending.
Would you do that with, for instance, the military budget? Would you do that with Medicare, where inflationary pressures drive these higher?
No. So proposals
those are two of the big programs, though, with the interest on the federal debt, which you can't just make go away. You can't have that at zero-based budgeting. If you're not going to do it with defense, you're not going to do it with Medicare, then that just leaves you with really a small sliver of the budget.
We have to start somewhere. That mentality has led us in this direction to where people say, oh, it's not that much, it's not that much. Well, I guarantee you over decades it does add up. Now, the interest on the national debt, because of interest rates going up, we taxpayers are responsible for that. So in some ways, when in previous discussions we've had, I've attacked the inflationary spending coming out of Washington, D.C. and things like the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation, it had to do with a green energy agenda. That's driven the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. And now we're paying more to service the debt. So this is a complex issue.
It is a complex issue, and I want to let Jared Golden weigh in. How can Congress and the President really, with some degree of effectiveness, address these spiraling budget deficits?
Well, actually, the Fed just lowered interest rates. And that's in part because of the work that I've been a part of in Congress to reduce federal spending, which we've now done consistently for about a year now, a year and a half, actually. Some of the things that you can do, Rob, and I put out a plan.
Overall, federal spending has not declined.
It is coming down relative to its projected gap.
That's not a decline.
Yeah, it is actually working, Rob. So, here are your proof points. For starters, the Inflation Reduction Act wasn't just about energy. It was also about healthcare costs. Part of those healthcare savings for individuals here in Maine, like seniors, would be price negotiations over drugs, which is going to save the federal government money. So that we're going to be paying less for prescription medications under the Medicare program, and also seniors are going to be experiencing those savings in their everyday lives. It's going to save Medicare about $200 or $300 billion over 10 years. That's an example of a savings on federal spending. You can also bring in revenue. For instance, you could tax millionaire and billionaire households. You could raise taxes on the many U.S. multinational corporations that are paying 0 to 1 or 2% on their corporate tax rate, unlike businesses here in Maine that generally are paying the 21% rate. So you can close tax loopholes, bring in more revenue. You could do things like tariffs, something both Austin and I have said we support. You could take the revenue from that and you could commit it to reducing the federal deficit and our federal debt. Or you could use it to reduce taxes. There's any number of things you could do.
Let me turn to Austin Theriault on taxes. Are there any taxes that you would consider raising?
No, I don't think we have a tax problem. I think we have a spending problem. Every time this comes up, it's used as a political weapon. We look at businesses in Maine. I know businesses personally that have benefited from lower taxes. They've been able to hire more people during that era when the economy was low inflation, when we had low unemployment. We had people hiring. I mean, economic growth was spurred in this country. So I think that we can have discussions about how to grow our way out of this issue. Now, if somebody is illegally taking, using the IRS tax code to illegally get around paying taxes, that's a problem. But the people I know and the businesses that I know are small family-run businesses, and they are paying their fair share. In fact, we need to look at supporting them, cutting regulations, and lowering the cost of energy. So not only small businesses, but families can stay here in the state of Maine, and they're not run out from inflation. And then Jared's mentioned interest rates have gone down. But that is on top of very high interest rates for a sustained period of time. And inflation has gone down to 2 or 3%, but that is cumulative. So we've experienced a time where people are paying literally 30 or 40% more, and that adds up at the end of the day. So you can't say we've made a lot of progress. We have a lot of work to do.
Everyone feels that we all pay our fair share of taxes, but the fact is that the government spends about $1 on programs for every 75 cents that it takes in. So Americans are getting a lot more government than they're paying for. Doesn't something have to give? And it has to be either significant cuts in programs or increases in taxes. Do you disagree with that premise?
Well, no, we've already agreed about that, Rob. He says he doesn't agree. I'm part of the Bipartisan Fiscal Forum, a group of Dems and Republicans in the House that have called for a fiscal commission. And I've stood with conservatives like Jody Arrington, who's in chair of the Budget Committee, where we've agreed that if we're going to do something about the federal debt and the federal spending deficit, we're going to have to do everything, from raising taxes. And I agree that middle-class people shouldn't be paying more in taxes, so we got to raise it on the wealthiest of individuals, millionaires and billionaires, corporations, U.S. multinational corporations, many of whom use legal loopholes that shouldn't be in the tax code to bring in more revenue. Would you oppose higher
taxes on those groups, on millionaires, on multinational corporations? You'd oppose higher taxes for them?
Taxes are good at the rates they're at now. In terms of cutting taxes, once again, if somebody's illegally taking using the tax code for their own benefit and it's breaking the law, we need to go make sure we go after them. But once again, this is a spending issue. This is not a taxation issue. And I think you'll ask people back home, they know the government spends wildly. Look at what's going on right now at the border. Housing illegal immigrants, giving them benefits at the backs of taxpayers. You say that that's not a huge issue, but it is. It adds up. Now I remember when commissions have been proposed before, everybody says, "Oh, let's put a commission together and figure out how we're going to cut spending." This has to be a bipartisan solution. But a commission, when we had commissions years ago and nothing's happened, to me, is more symbolic of a Washington that's broken.